All right, so Mike, let's talk a little bit then about your time at Treehouse specifically. Sure. What games did you work on while you were there?
The first project I worked on was the Mario Anniversary Collection for the Wii, and that was sort of a training wheels project because there wasn't any game to localize. I just got to localize the collector's book that came with it and some music tracks.
Was that the Super Mario All-Stars reprint
for the Wii
in the red box with the booklet and everything like that? Oh, that was really cool.
So how do you localize it? Like, do you get like a sheet of kind of roughly translated Japanese script from Japan?
Because spoilers, you don't speak Japanese at all.
I do not speak Japanese. The way Nintendo does it is. You, as the American English translator, there's also NOE, which will do like the British translation. Usually they go off the American one. Sometimes projects are different. But I would be paired with a translator who, often the translators are someone who was either Japanese but lived in America a long time, or like an American who lived in Japan or has parents of different citizenships. And what they would do is they translate something and be like, okay, this character's saying this, the accent they have in Japanese is a rough and tumble accent. So maybe you do like a Brooklyn accent or something. And then you as the American writer, you're like, okay, so I'd make them sound this way. But you know what I mean? Like, or cultural signifiers. That's
how we got Meowth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But little cultural signifiers, like it's not like they just put the script through Google Translate, then they're like, rewrite it. So you'd work with a translator, and then the translator also translates emails for you back and forth and like communicates with Japan. It's a very close partnership between your team and NOE and NCL. But for something like that, you just get the PDF translated, and then you'd rewrite it, and then they'd check it. Especially that one was checked very closely because it was interviews with like Mr. Miyamoto and people like that. And when you're dealing with those people, they're very careful.
Yeah, you didn't want to just make stuff up.
No. But the cool thing with that project was...
But he did.
When we first pitched Yoshi, he was a drunk green horse.
Nobody checked it, and it got through, and that's canon now. That is now canon. He's a drunk horse.
They are very specific about stuff like that, like about how Yoshis are Yoshis.
Yoshi's a space dragon, I think. Now.
Donkey Kong is not a monkey, right?
No, he's a Kong.
He's a Kong.
And that there's a style guide.
And he has to wear a tie because he's on a way to a job interview.
He's always just blew a job interview. Every game starts with him having a really bad job interview. Like he ended the job interview going, "Can I use the bathroom?" And they're like, "We're not going to hire you."
And then he gets mad and he kidnaps a woman, goes to the top of a construction site. The rest is history.
But they do have like a thick style guide that has like the gender of different characters. Not obviously the gender of characters but like
what's Mario?
Mario is a man. Okay. But they like bombs and stuff like that, and they also have like scale sizes. Like
what are bombs? Are they boys or girls?
I think if I remember, they're boys, but I could be
incorrect. Boys?
Yeah. I don't want to be wrong, and then like some fan is like, "Man, you didn't work at Nintendo at all."
I have to redraw my entire DeviantArt account.
But they have like the genders, and they have like the style guide is fascinating. And they have like different sizes. Like you can see like how big things like scale up. It was very cool.
Any surprises you remember?
No, you know what? It's more surprising, and maybe it's not surprising, but how well thought out it is. Okay. And nothing seems arbitrary.
Mario-verse,
right? But it and they also have one for Zelda. They have one for all the different franchises, and it doesn't feel arbitrary. It's not like them trying to be strict. It was just them being like, we know exactly how he should look. Here's how he should size up. Here's how he should sound.
Well, I remember reading about the production of Wreck-It Ralph, where they were talking about getting Bowser in that Villains Anonymous room,
right?
And all the publishers were basically saying, "Well, our character is this tall," and the guys working on the movie were just like, "Oh, so everybody wants their character to be like 700 feet tall, but that's not going to work. We have to put a ceiling in this room somehow."
Right.
So they fit Zangief, Bowser, all these M. Bison, all these other characters were in the room at the same time. But I think there was probably a little sort of ebb and flow on the actual style guide of scale there.
Sure. Yeah.
It's an interesting scenario.
Well, and it makes you wonder, too, because Nintendo internally has sort of, if you think about it, Smash Brothers just kind of puts them all on an even scale, right? Yeah. Just because of that. With the exception of Olimar, who the game portrays him as a much smaller creature, but in Smash Brothers, he's enormous for some
Which is weird, because they'll scale him up, but the idea of getting Ridley to be the size of Bowser is like, no.
Oh, heck no. No, we're not doing that. Yeah, no. Okay, fair. So you worked on Mario Collection, Mario Party 9?
I worked on Mario Party 9. I was the lead on Mario Party 9. I got to name Pizza Me Mario. That is the mini game that will go on my tombstone.
All right.
Another name of pizza.
No, but those projects were always fun because you'd have big meetings with a lot of writers.
How Drucker laughs.
Like very
best.
loud and shrilly.
It is the best. It's my favorite.
But we used to hear this from the studio all
It's
the
one of
time.
my favorite laughs in the world.
Yeah.
You've just lost all your listeners.
You had to
forgot.
hear Drucker laugh from the studio because no one else in there would. We brought in an audience every week that just never got to that level.
Oh, Greg Atlas.
Yeah. He still comes in every now and then.
I know you listen.
Hey, Greg. What was it? Oh, no. The cool thing about stuff like Mario Party 9 is you'd have these really fun meetings where you'd either play videos or you'd have a working prototype of the game and you'd be like, what should we name this? And everyone's throwing out puns and it's almost like this own, it's like, I know it sounds like a pun, but like a naming party. Like everyone's like having great ideas and it's really fun. Those were some of the most fun moments at Nintendo. And that happens, at least when I was there. I can't speak for this, now.
Of course.
5 years later. But when I was there, it'd be like, okay, we have these new enemies in a Kirby game. What should, in the Japanese, they want to name it this. They want to keep this quality of it, and we want the name to also reference this. What should we do? And then you have like a whiteboard where people are just naming names. And that was a lot lot of fun.
So you're standing in front of grown men and you're like, waddle-dee-poo.
Yeah, but exactly.
Wonkledy-winky.
That's exactly what it. And people are like, yeah. And then they're like, no. But it's so much fun.
Yeah.
And then you like give it to Japan, and they're like, okay, well, what about this? And it's like a back and forth. The cool thing about at least Nintendo is you're always working very closely with them, and like everyone just wanted to make a good game. Like it never felt like It never felt like corporate where they're like, well, this is better for marketing. It felt like they were more like, okay, let's try to make it fun.
Mm-hmm. Was there any 11th hour sort of? We have no idea. We're running on this has to get out like now because that seems to happen, right? These schedules can be complicated. There are milestones and things they have to hit at certain times.
I think not when at least not on projects I worked on. I remember. I'm responsible for the name Groose in Zelda, which is my only claim to fame.
Really?
Yeah.
We need to talk about this. Okay.
I mean, but it was one of those naming meetings. They were like, he's a bully. We want him to sound like everyone has to have a bird type name. The theme was birds in Skyward Sword.
Right.
And so they were like, okay, we want him to have a name that implies that he's a bird and that he's like a bully. And I was like, well, what about mixing Goose with Bruce? And we call him Groose. And they were like, okay, sure, yeah. And that was like, oh, I've named a Zelda character. Okay,
wow.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. And that's
the only the most of merit thing I did.
Okay. No, but when you think about Groose, I know I read a lot of forums, and that name consistently comes up as a character that everyone liked in Skyward Sword. For the most part.
I didn't write his dialogue. I mean, that's all the localization and the team doing that, but I gave him the name, so I can take more credit than I deserve.
That's awesome.
Nice. That is very awesome.
Well, you were working there around the time the Zelda timeline started coming to bubbling up, right? Was it like right before? Or?
It might have been. I might have been there right before, or there were rumblings of it. I was never involved in any of those meetings that discussed that, and I think that was all decided by Japan.
Yeah.
But I can't be certain.
Yeah, because I remember that was the first time where I was just like, oh man, there's a multiverse here. This
is,
There's a cinematic universe. This is nuts.
I still don't fully understand.
No,
I've read
you never
it
will.
3 or 4 times, and I'm like, so Link dies, but then he comes back again.
Well, there was Anthony Gallegos who used to work here. Used to always say that the Legend of Zelda story is basically some kid with a green shirt wakes up and he has to do some stuff. And as long as you get those bullet points down, you can go anywhere in the universe.
Right.
It's funny you bring up not understanding it though, because this weekend I finished Twilight Princess HD and I whipped open the Hyrule Historia. And I'm like, okay, so what happens next on the timeline?
Right.
It's like, oh, Four Swords Adventures. Of course it is.
I'm glad you're all cut up for the story now for Four Swords Adventures.
I'm like, perfect. Why not, right? But it just caught me by surprise.
Yeah,
I was like, this. Sometimes you open that book and you just get an answer. You're like not satisfied.
Right.
I think the idea of playing through all of them chronologically is I don't know anyone that's ever done that. That's
Well,
just
they also
such a-
branch out.
So they
Yeah.
might tried and we gave up, but no, I love the you've got this dark moment with midnight and the mirror shattering and all that, and then the next chapter is Link splits into 4 and throws himself off a cliff repeatedly. Right? That's the kind of story arc.
Exactly.
No, totally.